Thank you for having me here at Computer Weekly and Spink's annual event dedicated to diversity and inclusion. We meet every year to not only celebrate the ever-growing list of fantastic colleagues who are named on Computer Weekly's most influential women in UK tech, but also to highlight what more we should be doing to build an industry that lifts everybody up. This year, however, it is a little bit different because we aren't just talking about equality anymore. We are talking about building an equitable tech sector, and in particular, building this in a world where the pandemic has disproportionately affected different groups in society. We know that technology can be a force for good. We see it every day in the work that we do, the people we do it with, and who we do it for. And as an industry, we now have a collective opportunity and an obligation to ensure the use of technology in our businesses, our lives, and in the society that we bring about positive change on a national scale. But why is this needed? Well, the crisis has led to the UK government, for example, exempting companies from having to file gender pay gap data. And last year, as a result, only half of the companies did. Analysis of those that did produce the data suggest that it will take almost 200 years on average to close the gender pay gap. And if I'm honest, I don't really want us to be having the same conversations on diversity and inclusion in 10 years, let alone 200. But the drive for change is what separates today from the previous 10 years, because digital is now at the heart of everything. The need to ensure sufficient representation of underrepresented groups is more important than ever, because the development and deployment of digital technologies has been accelerated by the pandemic. And if we want our digital future to represent everybody, we must have all of our voices at the table. Digital now runs throughout every part of an organisation and therefore through every employee's role. As tech becomes increasingly pervasive, we need to take steps to ensure it works for everyone. So by taking a proactive approach to developing diverse talent, organisations can take a step towards future-proofing their businesses against skills shortages that could hold back their growth. I don't know if you know this, but almost 2/3 of those who've lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic are actually under the age of 25. And there is a risk that without coordinated action, the negative economic impact of the pandemic will be much longer lasting than just a single generation. So as employers in the tech sector, we want to work together with the government to stop this negative cycle happening. We know that many good jobs are and have been created and will be in the years to come, and bringing with them the opportunity for so many people to thrive. Our job is to connect these roles with those who need them, equipping far more people with the skills and pathways they need to thrive in a future defined by new technology. In a nationwide poll of 1,000 16 to 18-year-olds by the Institute of Coding, more than half believe the digital workforce lacks diversity, with 70% of youth surveyed thinking the sector is run entirely by those of white British ethnicity. And over a third, 34%, think that there are unequal opportunities for women. 1 in 10 admit they are actively discouraged from pursuing digital education and jobs due to the lack of people that represent them. So they don't see people who look like them in those roles. And that's a real problem for us. And while some of these opinions echo what many people in the industry may already feel, what's shocking is that these are the perceptions of young people who have yet to set foot in the industry. It is understandable that business leaders are reassessing priorities in this post-pandemic landscape, and diversity and inclusion will be one of the critical differentiators in how companies weather recovery. I believe that diversity and inclusion is our biggest opportunity to create competitive advantage. So how do we prepare for the workforce of the future? Changes to the labour market feature in every wave of technological innovation, but they have resulted in more and better employment in the long term. The challenge in front of us now is the speed and scale of this new wave of automation, the transition of works to new tasks or entirely new jobs which will require government and industry and educational support. And to prepare, we must push people to recognise that digital skills are a major facilitator for people to do jobs rather than for jobs themselves. I have recently been refused a table in a restaurant, not because they didn't have tables available, but because they didn't have the staff to serve them. I've also seen tech which enables remote staff to take your order. So we will need to spend the next 10 years fostering some kind of cross-pollination between tech and other areas as tech becomes more integral as a part of how we operate in sectors such as hospitality, climate, and also sustainability. So we're going to need to build back inclusively, and this will ensure that we include everyone in our digital future, not just those with higher level digital skills. Think about it. In a world that got more digital in an instant, with alternative channels for support being closed off, we need to do more to ensure that no one is left behind. And I love initiatives like Future.now, which have been doing just this, focusing on coordinating industry action to ensure that people are not digitally excluded and that they can participate online and safely. We need greater acceptance of remote working because that can create opportunities for some to access the workplace more readily, and thanks to a greater ability to work around people's lives, including, for example, those who have greater caring responsibilities or disabilities. This is all examples of how we can be much more inclusive. Businesses right across the country are waking up to the possibilities opened up by remote working and flexible shifts so that they can embrace more inclusive hiring processes. In a survey of more than 150 human resources leaders, over 75% of respondents said that COVID-19 represented important people opportunities, amongst which was the chance to improve culture and team dynamics so that they can boost inclusivity. And if we work to build targeted interventions, we will not only plot a quicker path to recovery, but we'll also build a future that is more productive, more inclusive. So as leaders then, we have to be better leaders, and that means perhaps being more compassionate and building inclusive strategies into how we operate. Looking forward, new technologies will require workers to relearn everyday processes multiple times throughout their career. And because of this, successful future leadership must be willing to frequently invest in upskilling their workforce. After all, it is not the rise of the robots that we should worry about, but rather that we should reskill ourselves every 5 years or less if we are to thrive in our digital future. But we do need to support people through this change. We must do a far, far better job in preparing our young people of all genders and backgrounds and those already in work for the jobs of tomorrow. Personally, I'm not yet convinced we're doing either of those things at the scale and pace required. And my hope is that in 10 years, future leadership teams will really fully understand the needs of their workforce in terms of both their development requirements and also the requirements that they need to live their lives online. Now, more than ever, the well-being of ourselves and others at work has been brought into sharp relief. As we care for our physical and mental health, find that balance, and navigate different ways of working, the importance of our collective experience as we work towards shared endeavour is much heightened. Many people are reporting that although we are physically further apart, in many ways, technology has enabled us to be more purposeful about our communications and more intentional about how we spend the time that we have been gifted. Tech UK has over 830 member companies which are themselves diverse, operating across numerous sectors and all with their own individual hiring, training and retraining practices. The journey these companies are on with their diversity and inclusion practices will and are very different. However, the direction of travel is very much the same. And so by redoubling our efforts to increase diversity in tech, we can not only work towards the normative and societal good of equal representation in the sector, but at the same time, we can take important steps towards ensuring an ethical and sustainable approach to the development and use of technology. This is how we build the diverse workforce of the future, one student, staff and leader at a time. Thank you.